Hello everyone, this video will cover Module 4. In Module 4, we are finishing or we're completing our first essay for the class. Now an essay is graded differently from your other writing assignments that you've done so far. So far you've done just a personal response as well as a discussion board, and those are the kinds of writing assignments that are graded basically on completion. Did you do it? Did you follow the directions? That kind of thing. Did you meet the length requirement? For an essay though, I also grade these writing assignments based on essay conventions. It's a formal writing assignment, meaning that you will be graded using a rubric, which I will show you. You need to put a little bit more effort into this one. I highly recommend starting this assignment right away, giving yourself, you have an entire week to do it, give yourself plenty of time to do an outline, draft it, do some proofreading, use the online writing lab, use a peer, a friend or a family member to help look over your work. This is an essay assignment. It's worth 100 points. You need to spend the entire week writing it. Don't wait until the last minute to finish this because it will reflect in your grade. So let me show you what the module looks like. So you can see that the only assignment that you're doing is this comparison contrast essay. You are just turning in the final draft, which means that there's not an assignment built in to have any kind of peer response. There's not an outline for approval or anything like that. So you may want to email me if you're struggling with your topic, or even just to approve your topic, make sure that the two stories you've chosen will work for it. But I have a lot of resources in here, so use that to your advantage. So first off, the readings and resources page, it's really important that you read this chapter here. It's about writing about a story, sorry. And then there is a section right in that chapter specifically about comparison and contrast, and some examples in there. So that is the type of essay that we're doing. The comparison contrast essay is a very typical essay assignment in a literature class. If you've taken any other literature class at Allen, you probably have written a comparison essay also. So you're probably familiar with this style, but I do have a couple of resources here that are pretty general as far as just how to construct a comparison essay. You basically will do the same thing no matter what your subjects are, but for literature in particular, we're focusing, the focus of your essay needs to be based on what you see in the text itself. So we're comparing texts. But this video here and then this website are both good resources. They do cover both of the styles of organization, point by point and subject by subject, but please note that you will be using point by point in this essay. So you are not going to cover one subject and then the other subject right after it. They'll be together. So I've got plenty of examples in here for you. I also have a link to the online writing lab. I highly recommend doing this. It's not required, but it is very much recommended. You do have to allow 48 business hours for a reply, but if you get your draft done earlier in the week, you should have plenty of time to send it in and get a response. Like I said, we're not doing any kind of peer response for this essay, so you would just have the one file that you're submitting for a grade. You want to make sure it's the best version of the essay possible, and so using the online writing lab for some feedback response is a really good idea. I have some examples in here as well. This is a student example essay, so it's not perfect, but it does give you a good view of how you can take two works of literature, and I believe she did characters as the kind of main focus of the essay. So she's comparing two characters in two different works and going through the different aspects of their characters. This is something that I just created, and it's a sample outline of a comparison essay. So I didn't write the essay, I just created the outline. And you can kind of see that outlining your essay is a really good strategy for making sure that you stay organized. It's not required, but if you're really trying to make sure that you get everything in the essay, this is essentially the only way to do that. So My outline here, I just chose the two stories out of the book, Rose for Emily and the Telltale Heart, which you guys are probably familiar with already. And I picked setting as my focus because they're both interior settings, and said that they're crucial for the overall tone of the works, as well as the adding to that creepy, the death atmosphere. So this is my working thesis, and an outline always starts with a working thesis. The thesis probably will change as you write the essay itself. The wording might be improved, but for an outline, it's a really good idea to start with kind of a generic idea. This is what I'm going to compare, and this is, this is my main focus, which is the setting adds to that, to the tone. So then I have my three areas where I'm going to cover, three main points that I'll cover in my essay. I'm focusing on the interior descriptions. A Rose for Emily has a lot of descriptions of the visuals inside the house, but the Telltale Heart doesn't as much. It focuses more on sound, which makes sense because of the story itself. That heartbeat is what leads to the reveal. So that sound, the descriptions of sound are much more important in that story. So that's a little bit of a contrast. So you'll notice in a comparison contrast essay, I have focused on three similarities, which is most likely what you're going to do because you have two very different stories. And so the similarities are more often going to be what you want to discuss because that helps us to lead us to a better understanding. However, within those similarities are some differences. So I've got my overall similarity is the focus on darkness because that is the link between the two. However, this story focuses on the visuals, whereas this story focuses on the sound. So you might have some differences within a generic or a general similarity, and that's okay because we're doing a comparison. We want to put them side by side and see how we understand them better as a result. For this main point, the tone, they're very similar. There's a lot of similar description of the interior as being closed off, as being isolated. There's not a lot of outside influence or people coming in from the outside. And obviously death as the central part of the plot is essential for the tone, death within the house. So that is a similarity that will be pretty much entirely similarities in that paragraph because it's described in the same way. And then the last paragraph, looking at the reveal in the closed off bedroom. Obviously there's a dead body and there's dead bodies in both of them. And that's the turning point of the story. So that's a critical moment in the story, and it happens right at the very end. So we get that climactic moment in the story. And so finding the bodies is also very similar, although one of them obviously is under the floorboards and one of them's on a bed. So the difference is just the location, but there's dead bodies in the room. And so that would be a very similarity as well. So and then I got more examples of works cited entries here, what it would look like. So this is what my works cited page is going to look like, is my two works that I'll be putting in there. So this is just a simple sample outline, just some thoughts that I had as I was putting this together. And so you can do the same thing with your own ideas. And honestly, rather than sending me like you can send me your whole essay if you want some feedback, but an outline like this is a really quick way for not only me to say, okay, you're doing all right, but also for you to feel like you have some place to go with your essay. So I highly recommend this. You can even just download my sample outline and write over it with your own ideas if you want to. And then obviously the student examples there. The sample works cited entry is here as well. It's for the Telltale Heart. Basically, you can copy and paste this into your essay. You'll change the author's name and the title as well as the page numbers, but yours should look just like this with those changes to it. and you'll have one for each of the works that you used for the essay. So this is the essay assignment itself. Notice you have kind of three options to do comparison, contrast, or comparison and contrast. Like I said, most students focus on comparison because they are obviously two different stories, but sometimes you'll have like two works by the same author or something, in which case contrast might be a little bit more interesting. And so the main thing I want you to remember is I really want you to use stories that we've read already. So within the first few chapters of the book, if you decide you want to use something else entirely or something that's not in the book, make sure that you email me for approval, because I want to make sure that it is the level of writing and the type of writing that we want for this class. Some things that you want to consider, making sure that you are not doing subject by subject comparison, that each main body paragraph covers both subjects. So we are making sure to actually make direct comparisons between the two. And there are some examples in the textbook of outlining and how to put that together. Using MLA format, making sure that you have three main points that you're going to cover at least. You could do more than that, but three. We want a 5-paragraph essay at least. Make sure that you use page numbers for direct quotations from your stories, and then you have that works cited page. This is not a research essay, so I'm not expecting you to do outside research. If there is something that you want to research for this one, contact me first to make sure that you're not going too far outside of the assignment itself. And same thing with other stories that are not in the textbook. And then obviously I'm using this rubric to grade, and so don't expect a perfect score on this assignment because it is an essay. Typically content and grammar, mechanics, and format are the area where students will score a little bit lower, just because those areas can always be improved. You can revise and revise and revise and still not have a perfect essay, and so don't expect that on an essay assignment. All the other assignments you might be able to earn full points for, but not essays. So that is the module. If you have any questions, if you're struggling with anything, send me an email. Again, it is not cheating to send me a copy of your essay.